Alright, y'all, I appreciate y'all tuning back into the channel. If you're watching this, this is my M54 B25, same procedure for the B30. I did a rebuild, reassembly on here. Alright, today we're going to go over the Vanos and setting up the timing. Vanos is basically like the variable valve timing for BMW. That's what they call it. Honda calls it VTEC, yada yada yada. Everybody got a different name for it. So what we're going to do first is install the studs on the exhaust cam. This is the exhaust, this is the intake. The intake doesn't have as many parts as the exhaust cam does. Okay, so you're going to take a deep socket 12mm and tighten these down to 20 Newton meters, which is about 14.751 foot-pounds. I'm just going to do 14.5. And torque these down in a circular pattern. Doesn't really matter, but it's always good to go clockwise. So I'll go ahead, double check my torque wrench. Boom, boom, boom. Looks like I already had it there, but anyway, that'll be alright. Place that down. So on the exhaust camshaft, this is the main chain here. Your secondary chain is just going to loop here. Okay. On your main chain, you want to make sure there's a little arrow here. Okay. You want to make sure that's flush with the surface of the cylinder head. Okay. Before you get into the rest of this timing, because you won't be able to adjust any of this once it's together. So you'll have your tensioner. Let's see here. Your temporary tensioner there. This just needs to be finger tight, okay? Finger tight, nothing crazy. Alright. And then you can, let's see here, if I can get a better angle. Okay. So 20 Newton meters on these, and then we will start installing the parts here for this exhaust side first. So you're going to take your little whatever you want to call it, your piston or whatever, and you want to put it in your gear for this side. Okay, it's only going to slide in one way because it's got this little notch here where one of these teeth are missing, and then this one has one of it where the teeth are missing as well. It'll only slide in one way. Once it does, sorry, piece of hair. You're going to put the short side inward, okay, and the longer side on the gear outward. These will sit there together. You can kind of use your fingers to sandwich it together. And on the exhaust camshaft, there's a notch missing specifically for it, so you literally cannot put it on wrong. It literally will not let you put it on wrong. So there you have it. Okay, you want to make sure that's sitting flush up against there. Okay. So you'll have a little bit of play there, a little bit of wiggle room and whatnot. But once you put it in, you will be able to install what's next. So you're going to order your tool, your special tool here for the timing, and this slides out. So you're going to want to make sure you put the gear and the other piston on the right side, okay, and then this one sits here, and basically you can slide it to adjust the tension on the chain. Now when you pull this off, you're going to want to keep this together as much as possible. So I'm going to do this with two hands, but I'm going to, like I said, again, with the piston you can't put it in wrong. It only goes in one way. So pull this off, and we are literally going to slide the piston and this gear here on the intake cam, and this one's just going to sit where it sits. So let me set this down. on the engine mount. I'm actually kind of glad I got the engine mount on because this is a nice little table for me. Make sure when you pull this off you don't get the teeth mixed up. Okay, because that's supposed to properly time things. Okay, so now you'll see, obviously the tensioner is in. The tensioner pin is not pulled, it's still compressed. Everything's torqued here, just, you know, 6-7 foot-pounds, nothing crazy. The E8 bolts are torqued down in here too, again, like 6-7 foot-pounds, nothing crazy. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, but that is in, okay, during this time. And you're going to want to put those things in before you start doing the Vanos. But anyway, so you'll have this like that. Okay, so you got this piston, and this will slide this whole assembly. Moving this piston in and out, pressing against this though, because it'll kind of move, but this will slide this whole assembly. And I'm going to thread this in first. Okay. That one, there's that one. Okay. Okay, pull that back out. The piston back out. Okay, and just leave these like put them finger tight and back them off for now. Now again, you can see all the markings on there. So go ahead and put the spacer on. Boom. Put the one with F on right there for the front. Okay. Then you're going to have this plate, and it has another arrow that's going to line up with the cylinder head there, just like the other one did earlier. Okay, so you'll take that and your 3 nuts. So we got the 1, 2, 3. Again, I'm just going to do these finger tight for now, and then back off just a little bit, and then you can see I have my line that's lined up with the cylinder head there. Okay, so the arrow that points right there. Now for the intake side, you've got this spacer. Now, obviously you can see the holes for where it was, but you know, because the back side doesn't really have the markings for them. But also it's got these little lips, and these lips are going to go pointing towards the front of the car. Okay, towards the front, so they kind of like ramp up towards the front of the car. If you put it on backwards, it's going to be the lips are going in, you want the lips going out. So I'll go ahead and slap that on there, and that covers the sprocket. And then again, go ahead, put these down finger tight, and back just a little bit. So now should be able to move this back and forth with just this intake side. Now don't get it confused, because this one says A, this one says E. You would think E is exhaust. E is the intake, A is the exhaust. Why they do it? Good question. So, verify that this does move. I have a lot of finger strength, so I actually realized I tightened it too much earlier, so I had to back off my tensioner just a little bit because I felt like it was just way too tight. I could not move it earlier, but this is the procedure. So you can move this, leave it however you want, doesn't really matter, because what we're going to do right now is time it. So you're going to take your special tool, which is part of your Vanos timing kit. Got this off Amazon, or you can get it on eBay or whatever. I'll put a link in the description. And basically, the ends of these pistons need to line up with these. Okay, this one here is too far out, so I need to move this in a little bit. Try it again, because this needs to be flush with this surface. We are going to end up bolting it up here, so move this in just a little bit more. That's still just a little too much. There we go. So that's sitting flush now, and that's very close there. We're going to make sure this side, pull this sprocket out as well. Make sure it's touching. Okay, but the final say-so is going to be when we bolt it up. So you'll take your 3 focus 10mm nuts, okay, and your 1 13 bolt nut combo. Put the 13 bolt nut combo all the way to the right, finger tight for now, and thread on your 10 mils. Just run them down. Now I'm just using open-ended wrenches here. I'm not using any kind of power tools, but I'll start with this middle one. Just get it snug. Move over here, snug, over here, snug, and then take the 13 and oops, just try that again. There it is, snug. So now the plate is sandwiched on there. Just make sure. I'm seeing a little bit of a gap, but maybe that's just the tool. Let's see if I can close that up. I don't want to put too much tension on any of these. Yeah, that worked. So now that you've got your 10 and your 13, like I said, jiggle and wiggle these pistons so that they're fully out, okay, and touching. Okay, so this is just a close-up view of this. So this piston, you need to take it and wiggle it out and make sure it's touching this plate here, okay. It's like the black part of it in there, okay. And then this one, same thing, there's like a little black part of it, and you want to make sure that's touching. That's when you know that you're in time, okay. Also, the arrow here, the arrow right there, is lined up with the cylinder head, okay. And this hole will be able to access this bolt, this nut, 10mm nut, and then this hole will access to the E8 and then the other 10mm nut. So as you can see, it's like that, and that's what that gap is for us to be able to tighten it. So do not worry. I know we didn't tighten anything yet, but this is the procedure. So I just wanted to show that before I continued on the main camera. And we're going to be pulling this. You're going to have holes in here because we didn't torque those E8s, and we didn't torque these either. So you're going to have holes here to be able to torque these because you wanted to have them finger tight for now. Okay, with just a little bit backed off. So don't worry about not being able to tighten it. That's what the tool's for. These holes are here specifically for this, so you can go back and tighten it. Okay. Next up, the next procedure is going to be to pull the pin from out of the tensioner. But really quick, I'm going to show you the pistons and where those needed to be lined up in correspondence with the Vanos. Alright, so for this part of it, we are going to now pull the tensioner once we have confirmed that those pistons are out. Yoink. There's a little tensioner pin. Grab you a little torque wrench. These are going to go to well, it's supposed to be 5 Newton meters, but we're going 3.5 foot-pounds. It's supposed to be 3.66 something, but we're going to go 3.5. Okay. Maybe it might help if I tighten them down a little first. Yeah, like 3.66. It is barely anything. Barely anything. Okay. Grab a little extension. Step away a little bit. There we go. No thread locker or anything like that on these nuts. None of that is going to be necessary. Okay, so then I'll go around, circle torque, and just check, make sure, and we're good. So now I'll do it on this side. 5 Newton meters, 3.5 pound-feet of torque. Just better than trying to do 3.66. If you can set your torque wrench like that, you can go ahead and do it by all means. But see, I meant about these holes. It's gonna let you tighten everything down. This thing wasn't designed specifically like this and machined like this, and you wouldn't be able to. So just for good measure, while I have the 10 mil out, let's just continue to make sure that these are to the torque that I wanted it. Cool, so I'll take my 10 mil off now. You're gonna grab your E8 socket, do the same thing. Boom. 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 Alright, circle torque, and just check. Okay. And that's that. You've only got the E8s on this side. You don't have any E8s on that side. Now, all of these are tightened up. Went through the access holes, we went through and we rotated just to make sure. We didn't rotate it, but we rotationally torqued them just to make sure, circle torqued them. And everything looked good. The pin's pulled, the tension is here, the tension is on. Okay, there's no oil up here or anything like that yet. Okay, so after the 5 Newton meters, you're going to go ahead and do 10 Newton meters, which is going to be 7.7 something. 7.5 foot-pounds is what we're going to do. So, okay, and circle here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so that's final for those. Now we'll take our 10 mil off and throw the E8 socket back on, reset the torque wrench, and now we are going to 20 Newton meters, which is going to be that 14.751, but we're going to do 14.5. And we'll hit these E8 sockets to 20, not the E8 sockets, the E8 bolts to 20 Newton meters for the final torque. Okay, felt pretty firm. Remember, the E8s are only on the exhaust side. So those E8s and those first studs that we put on both go to 20 Newton meters, or 14.751 foot-pounds. I'm going to do 14.5. That's what I feel like doing. So that's what's going to be done. Alright, so we are now in time. Alright, Everything here looks good. Man, the lighting's so much better on the GoPro, but the other camera's on stand, so it's a lot easier. Anyway, yeah, tensioner's pulled, everything's good. I don't have the crank pin in, so we're not worried about that, but I do have the camshaft holding, the camshaft holding tools in, so I'll go ahead and take these off. Okay, if you're wondering how I timed the crank, boom. Little line there. You can also stick a screwdriver in and find top dead center with that down the spark plug hole in cylinder 1, but I can literally see the piston. I know this is there, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. If you're doing it in the car, there is the little tool and you'll stick it through or whatever through this little hole down here, okay, and it'll go into the flywheel and lock it into true TDC. The lobes are pointing towards each other. These lobes here, okay. Sorry, I'm gonna wipe that. Anyway, those are sticking towards each other. So now what we're gonna do is rotate the engine, okay, by hand, and just a couple times, and just make sure that once we come back that this mark is lined up here, okay. That mark is lined up. This mark is lined up. Everything is still good. The tops of these are still good and pointing where they should be. After rotating, I should be able to put this right back in and everything should be back at TDC where it belongs. Do this before you start the car. Don't start putting anything else back together until you've done this, okay? So now I'm going to switch to the other camera and we're going to rotate it. Alright, now for the moment of truth. So if you've ever heard the term 180 degrees off, because we're going to have to rotate this twice to see if we're back at TDC, because right now we're only 180 degrees from where we started over here. We're only right here. And I've turned the crank one full revolution. Okay, let me actually zoom out. Let me get a different angle here, you know what I mean? Shoot. It's all about them angles. Alright. So I've done one full rotation and the timing on the cam is 180 degrees. So if I do another rotation, then we'll be back. Got my assembly lube going crazy. This is all by hand. We'll make sure it's nice and free flowing. You don't hear no pistons and valves making out. Boom. You like apples? We are back. There we are. There we are. Okay. Yep, that's lined up right there with the head. Yep. Rotate it again. Let me throw in my cam timing. Throw that in. Look like we got just a little bit more to go. Boom. Yep. 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 We are there. We are there. Alright. Take that back out. Let's run it again. Sounds nice. So this is our first rotation. So we are 180 degrees. So if we try and line up our cams, everything is 180 degrees. Everything's bass backwards right now. Cam lobes are not facing each other. They are pointed down. The tops of these camshafts, the holes are not up. Nothing's good right now. You want to make sure that you do the 2 rotations. You don't want to get confused about, damn, the timing went off. If it didn't, you're just 180 degrees off. And this is just as far as the check goes. We have tension on our, on our timing components with that. That is just the temp in place tensioner. Alright, got just a little bit more to go. Yep. There we are. This sits flush. Cam lobes are pointing towards each other. Yep. I like that. I do like that. So, we've rotated this twice now. I'm pretty confident. I like it. Everything felt good. If I could see that mark. Wish I could. Oh yeah, there it is. I see the mark. I'm gonna pull up the GoPro. But there's a mark on the front, little, cover on the front sprocket, and then you have the main chain, and you should be able to see that line. That line should still be flush with this. It should be flush with the head. Okay? You should see both those lines right behind each other. That right there looks good. I like it, I like it. Alright, so go ahead and do that as many times as you want. I'm pretty confident with that. I'm pretty happy with that, so that's where I'm going to leave it. Alright, so next step is going to be to remove the temporary tensioner. Go ahead, undo that first, then unscrew it. Alright. This is just temporary. Keep this for your next time you do this. And then, take our actual tensioner here. If it comes out, the only thing that's in it is a spring and then this cup. Okay, you want to make sure that this side is like this, and it's going to go straight into here. Okay, you're going to have to apply a little bit of pressure to get it started. If you like me and got good hand strength, then it's going pretty smooth. So we'll go ahead and finger tighten this down for a second. Boom. And we'll grab our torque wrench. Alright, so now we'll torque it to 70 Newton meters, which is about 51.63 foot-pounds. And we are just going to do 51.5. 32 millimeters on the socket. Boom. What's that? You want to just double check? Boom. And that's it. So now, probably rotate this again. Try it again. Just make sure everything is still at TDC. Just to be on the safe side. Get that final. Probably should have put the cam holders back in before I took the tensioner out and stuff, but oh well. None of it really moves that easy. I didn't think I was able to knock any of it. Here goes nothing. .180 degrees. And here comes our mark. And there are both of our marks there. That's what we like. One more time. One more time for a finale. Alright, that's our first pass. 180 degrees. Okay. It never hurts to be careful and triple check your timing. It never hurts. Looks like we were a little bit, there we go. Alright. Boom. Just like that. Yep. We are lined up just like that.